So Keith, Never Too Late, the album, it's finally released. How does it feel to have the album out in the world?
It's a very good feeling. It was a very enjoyable process. It's something I've never done before, never tried to do, but it just felt the right time to pick up all these bits of songs and finish them off. And it's a very good feeling to have it out and see the nice comments that are coming back.
Now, this question might be a slightly unfair one, but what are your favourite tracks on the album and why? And maybe not favourite, but what are the standout tracks for you?
The tracks that I veer towards are things like I've Got Nothing On. I think because I just like the chords. They're a bit strange. I like that. I like the Silence of Darkness for the mood of it, and I like the single Show Me the Soldier because I just like the way it ended up, the groove we managed to get on it. So those, but I like them all really. I mean, I think when you start something like this, you're invariably, as a writer, and you're doing stuff basically that you like, that you're doing it to please yourself. You just hope that other people will pick up on it and like it as much as you do. So that's the way you approach it. And obviously some turn out better than you expected, so that's a bit of a bonus.
So you mentioned that not all of the tracks on this album are brand new, and that some of the actual initial demos date back to around the time that you left the band. So can you talk a bit about the timeline for some of these songs?
Yes, some of those, I've said before, some of the tracks are brand new, but there's a number of them that date back either just 3-5 years ago, where I was just collecting snippets of songs and filing them away, and 2 or 3 of them date back to when I had my big studio in Manchester, and I'd write snippets of songs then. Most of them were never finished off as demos, and in a couple of the cases there was no recording of what I've been doing, but the lyrics survived. Things like the Silence of Darkness and Red Dress were there in a folder. No music at all. I had no idea what I was thinking at the time, but they had a nice mood about them, so I felt they were worth starting again and using the lyrics, so that's what we did.
So one of the tracks that you mentioned that you really liked was Show Me the Soldier, which turned out to be the single of the album. Was choosing the single quite a difficult decision? And were there any other contenders on the album that might have taken the place of Show Me the Soldier as the single?
Yes, I think there was 2 or 3 that we thought were contenders. The other main contender was I Got Nothing On, but in the end we felt we were just going to put one single out before the album came out, and Show Me the Soldier was the better one of the 2, so that's what we went with.
So you mentioned that the process of making this album actually dates back quite a few years in terms of compiling all of the material together, but when it actually came down to recording this music and putting it all together, what was that experience like for you, writing, producing and releasing an album of original music under your own name?
It was a very liberating feeling to start the project, because all the work I've done since I left the band is all work commissioned for film, where it's a very prescribed job. So there's a roadmap, and the pictures sort of dictate where you're going with the music for either emotional, fast, slow, happy, sad, etc. So to sit down with these and with new stuff, where it was a blank sheet of paper, was a new experience, and I really enjoyed it. It was a matter of again, sort of creating the roadmap, in that, when you start, you've got a blank sheet of paper, maybe an idea for a lyric, and once you've got the idea for the lyric, that kind of gives you the direction, or some part of the direction, and I just enjoyed the whole process of it. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle in terms of working out the lyric, and trying to say as much as possible in as few words as possible is very tricky sometimes. So it was good. It was a great experience.
So you touched on it there, Keith, that although you've not released music as a solo artist, as a media composer, you've been making and writing music for years now.
Yeah.
What are the main differences between writing music for yourself as opposed to writing music for others?
Well, when you're writing for a film or a animation or whatever it is, you're never starting with a blank sheet of paper, because there's always something on the screen that is pointing you towards the kind of cue that it should be. And maybe the director's also got an idea, his own idea of what it should be, which maybe is something you'd have never thought of. So there's all sorts of things that to get you started on what this cue should sound like. And sometimes you can play it, a number of different ways with the same piece of film, and the music will give the overall impression a different slant. But when you sit down just to write a song, it can be quite daunting. I mean, if you've got an idea, that's fine. You've got something to get your teeth into. If you haven't, then you're sitting there, it's like with the blank typewriter, and where do we go from here? But it's quite exciting once you get something moving as an idea to develop it. If it feels like, this one might have legs, then, it's quite exciting to be able to move it on and then, work the lyrics out, and then finally, if it's worthwhile at the end of all that, you sit down and try and do a decent demo, point it in the direction, do an arrangement, and move it along up the process.
So can you talk a bit about the process of writing the songs and how you approach actually recording the album?
Yeah. Well, as we've said, some of them were picking up on ideas from the past. Some of them were brand new. Show Me the Soldier started with just the riff. There's just a 2-chord riff, which had a nice feel to it, and then I got a bit of a melody, and then that's all I had. I thought about the soldier aspect of it, and then suddenly that was it. It was a teenager who's a bit lost and kind of going nowhere, and this was an opportunity. It's like a recruitment song, really. That was how that one started out. The Fool of a Heart started out with basically a riff and a chopped up fiddle that we had, and moved it along from there, which went through quite a few different stages, and then to end up like it did. Now, as for recording the album, we were lucky because my studio is in a barn on my property here in the middle of the countryside. So even though there was a pandemic in process and people were locked down, I was able to just carry on working in the studio, and we could take the demos and move on from that, and either start again or just redevelop them and improve them, etc.
The response to the album on social media has been really positive, and many devoted fans of Herman's Hermits are thrilled to see you releasing music. What would you like to say to these fans who have followed the band and its members for all of these years?
It's an awful long time since the band, since we're in our heyday in the 60s, and it never ceases to surprise me how many emails, etc. I get, even before this album, of people that are still fans of the band. In America, obviously, Peter's still working a lot there, so there's still quite a large fan base there. They make themselves known.
So you mentioned Peter there. Are there any other special mentions or thanks that you'd like to send to anybody involved in making and supporting the release of this album?
Yeah, I'd like to say a big thank you to Peter for supporting the album, and also to Jason Manford, who I've been working with for the past few years on a TV show, for spreading it on his huge social media network.
So Keith, one final question.
Yeah.
Any future plans?
Well, this whole experience has been so enjoyable that I've carried on with the process in between all the other commitments, and the intention during the rest of the year is just to put another bunch of songs together. So we'll see how that goes. Watch this space.